Greetings! I am Herbert Erpaderp, and today I'm going to answer some questions because this is Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, and that's what you do in an Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. Well, it's what I do. You ask the questions. Unless you also happen to be a Herbert Erpaderp, but I doubt that's the case. I don't think I have anything to announce or anything like that, so let's get to the questions. Becky from the block said, have you considered painting a 1/10 or similar scale bust? No, not really. I generally prefer vehicles over people, and I don't think I would do a very good job if it was something that I wanted to do. I mean, I would do my best, but I find flesh tones kind of hard to do a convincing job with. I think it's really cool to see things like that done well. I mean, who doesn't like seeing a job well done? But I don't especially have an interest in doing it. Penfold07 said, do you build models for display as well as for gaming? If so, how do you display them? I don't deliberately build models for display, though I guess anything that isn't a wargaming kit is kind of a display model. That would make sense. I don't really have much in the way of space for displaying models, though I do have a few plastic display boxes. You can see those in the background of my recent modelling videos. They do have gaming models in them though. I just figured it would be nice to be able to look at them on my desk without the models eventually getting all dusty or potentially damaged. And the display boxes don't take up a lot of space, which is nice. They're just some fairly cheap display boxes I got from Daiso. Smoes said, what's your favourite model train company? Mine is personally Hornby, as they do a lot of steam locos. I don't really have a favourite. I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff from all kinds of manufacturers out there. I barely have any actual experience with model railway stuff lately, so I wouldn't really know who makes really good stuff. I always had cheaper models like Lifelike or Bachmann when I was younger, though I always wanted the really expensive models. I just couldn't have them. I guess I don't really have a basis for picking a favourite or a need. Smoes also said, do you watch a YouTube channel called Lindy Beige? I do, I quite enjoy Lindy Beige's videos. I've been subscribed to him for quite a while now. I rather enjoy the way he speaks, it's quite engaging. It also helps that he usually talks about pretty interesting stuff too. Definitely recommended. I think a lot of my subscribers would also be interested in his videos, so go check him out. Top Bunk Productions said, when looking at examples of the old tool Tamiya TRex through Google Images, I stumbled across another ancient discovery. Airfix made dinosaur kits too, including that kind of T-Rex in the late 70s. Not only that, but that kit looks eerily similar to the Tamiya version, and slightly better detailed. Do you think the Tamiya T-Rex is a cheap knockoff of the Airfix one? I didn't know that. I'm assuming the image you included is the Airfix kit, and it does look slightly better than the Tamiya one I built, especially the feet. I doubt the Tamiya one is a knockoff though. I mean, it's a T-Rex, and at the time they were probably using the most current ideas of what a T-Rex should look like. They seem different enough that it's probably just more of a case of both companies making a T-Rex, probably in the interests of competition. I mean, if one company was going to rip the other one off, they probably wouldn't even bother making any changes. James Valentine said, will your T-Rex do battle with mighty tigers? I have genuine photographic evidence that it did happen. Honest, it's real, I assure you. That's a great historical document you've got there. The T-Rex looks like he's laughing maniacally. I quite like it. To answer the question, of course my T-Rex will do battle with mighty tigers. Who will win? We may never know. Ratto said, what do you think about Finland's greatest radio hit, Enon Disco? I didn't expect the voice to be so low. Also, I didn't understand a word, except disco I suppose. This might be one of the best songs that I've ever heard. Smoes said, what is your favourite British diesel locomotive? Mine is the Class 33. I'm not sure. Some of the British diesels were quite ugly. Some are quite interesting. I've always been kind of fond of the Class 20. Class 37 is also kind of cool. Fatslav6969 said, would you consider building and making videos about a diorama? I'm pretty sure I've answered this a couple of times before, but it is something I might do at some point. I don't have any immediate plans though. Doing a diorama is something that would take a significant amount of time, so it's probably something I would do slowly in the background when I do eventually do one, rather than making it a priority, if that makes sense. I don't really have a lot of space to keep dioramas and things like that, so I do try to avoid things that might take up a bit too much space. Mosh said, what do you think about Team Yankee? I think it's alright. I've never played it myself and I don't really have a lot of interest in it because I'm mostly interested in World War II, but it seems like a lot of people enjoy it, and that's a good thing. I think I'll personally stick to regular old Flames of War though. Flying Scanion said, have you done an airbrushing for dummies video, or at least airbrushing the AG way for dummies? If not, would you? About the closest thing I've done is a video on priming and base coating with an airbrush. It is something that I've had in my quick tips video list for a while, I just haven't really gotten around to it. I'm not sure what I do with the airbrush is really different enough to call it the HE way or anything like that. I mostly do rather simple things, but I really should do some more videos about airbrushing. If there's anything specific about airbrushing that you wanted to know, let me know in the comments. The Chieftain said, what do you think about the 156th vs 148th discussion for bolt-action vehicles? I guess I mostly feel indifferent. Really, I have better things to spend my time worrying about. I feel like people should play in whichever scale they like, as long as their opponents also want to play in that scale, and let others play in whatever scale they want. It seems like that might be a little bit too hard for some people to accept, so they have to get all angry about how other people play their games. I'm certainly not going to be convinced to replace my 156 scale stuff with 148th because some rivet counter gets all butt blasted about it. I'm just not going to play with and probably won't talk to that person. I don't normally seek out or take part in that discussion, but I have seen some people get very angry about it, and I don't really understand that kind of thing. Those kinds of people are probably a little bit unhinged, and I would like to stay away from them. It seems to mostly about people thinking the bolt-action figures don't suit the vehicles or something like that, but it is a game and not something to get your bowels in an uproar about. I feel like as long as models are close enough to the same scale as each other and the opponent is using the same scale, that's good enough for me. On last fortnight's Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, TOFM Drone said, you still sound sexy as fuck. I'll take your word for it. Also, that isn't a question. Kumias Priada said, if you could choose in what time you could be reborn into, what time would that be? Medieval, prehistoric, early 1920, or whatever? And why that time? I guess it kind of depends. I assume being reborn means I wouldn't have any technology or knowledge from the future, so I would just be a regular person from that time period. And going back to the past in that sort of way doesn't really appeal to me. Especially not before the early 1920s when insulin was invented. I'd just end up dying. It would of course be interesting to go back in time and view any time period through my own eyes, but I guess that's not really the question. It would also be really cool to go forwards a couple of 100 years into the future. I'd like to know if humans wipe ourselves out of existence or if we develop cool things like space travel. I would hope for space travel, but my money is on extinction. I guess that doesn't really answer the question either, but I would choose the future at some point because it's got to be better than the past. Adam Cool, which is a pretty solid name, said, would you play War Thunder? I've played War Thunder quite a bit. I've made a few videos about it and I've also streamed it. I do play the game every now and then, but if I want to play tanks I'm really more likely to play World of Tanks. Mostly because I have more tanks to choose from in that game. I have zero interest in grinding tanks for either game, so I'm never going to grind out tanks just so that I've got more of a variety in War Thunder. Especially not just to please somebody else, not unless they're paying me quite a hefty sum of money. Also, I get significantly more rubber banding and lag in War Thunder, which is never fun. Also, every time I play it seems that I get people whining that I'm not playing realistic or simulator battles, but I find those really boring, and I'm not interested in spending my free time being bored. Saying that is bound to get somebody who is inexplicably loyal to War Thunder for some reason all butthurt. Leave your comments below. I will probably chuckle. I remember being told by somebody that I don't know anything about tanks if I don't think War Thunder is better than World of Tanks, though their language was a little bit stronger than that. I thought it was pretty funny. Just imagine having your identity so tied to a video game. I think I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there. Let's move on to the portion of Ask a Herbert Erpaderp in which we look at the modelling shared by the community over on Discord. First, Duncanuva built the Zvezda mouse. Here it is in the bag, and built. It's a little bit blurry, but it's definitely a mouse. Duncanuva also shared his first attempt at an abandoned ship, using the 1600 scale HMS Belfast. Becky from the block shared their progress working on this New Zealand SAS figure who has been muddied and bloodied during a firefight. This is rather good work. The poor guy looks quite confused and disoriented. Very nicely done. Some dude shared his efforts of using foil to coat aircraft. It's a bit rough here, but the idea does show some promise. And here's some more progress. I'm curious to see how this is going to end up. Harry is loving Rusty Spoons shared this, well, I don't know exactly what he is, but he's clearly a big, angry, shooty, choppy man. Tuplov found some of his old Tau models and has been painting them up to fit in with his girlfriend's army, which I'm assuming is a Tau army. This is a nice camo scheme. They look like they would be right at home on a nice frozen planet. Fog of War shared this picture of the resin top for his Australian MRV kit. That's quite a gap. Top Bunk said that it looks more like Airfix than Battlefront, and, well, he's not wrong. Here it is after being filled in. You're right, filler can fix just about anything, except stupid. McGobbo shared another model from Era the Consortium. This character is called Styx, and he looks very stompy. I think it's best to avoid those feet. Ratto shared this hull, saying rivet counters would be delighted with it because you have to add your own rivets and drill holes for them. And here's some pictures from Infinity Day at the local club. I wonder how many heads this choppy boy lopped off. Not everybody there plays Infinity. Some play Aristia, which I have undoubtedly said wrong, but it's a board game by Corvus Belli, who also make Infinity. Ratto also impulse bought some kits and got some fancy ideas. This is a Masterbox made cafe girl, seen here with a trumpeter Russian infantry figure. Ratto didn't like the quality of the trumpeter figure, but the guns were super high quality and thus, shooty cafe girl. Very dangerous. Also from Ratto, Flames of War at the Dice Club. And here's a series of pictures from a game called Darklands, which I don't think I've heard of before. The models look really cool, and I'm quite entertained by the giant bronze fellow. Apparently the game involves complex rules and a lot of dice throwing. And here Ratto has just finished assembling some Plastic Soldier Company M3 Stuarts. There was even enough leftover parts to make one more. And here's some pictures comparing the Plastic Soldier Company M5 and M3 Stuarts alongside the Zvezda M3, which is the smallest of all three. I don't know how realistically sized any of them are, but I guess the Plastic Soldier Company models are consistent with each other, even if they might be wrong. Max W shared this pair of U-boats he finished, along with the sinking ship. I really like the sinking ship ends. That's really cool. And here's the dingo he got. Here it's ready for paint. And here, the painting has begun. He's also been working on this Tamiya 1/48th scale J2M3. And here, the wheel wells have been painted with a nice blue. Burner 581 worked on this big boy. He added dry brushing heavy enough for it to be sun bleached. I guess Big Stompy Boy just can't resist being out and having fun in the sun. The TRex gamer shared this excellent little Rubicon Willys Jeep. Very nice work. Must be the time for Jeeps. I just painted this same model, as I'm sure most of you already know. The driver in this Jeep is a bolt action figure. Top Bunk Productions shared this awesome Spinny? Light Panzermech for Conflict 47. What a sensible machine. Speaking of sensible, here are Top Bunk's 2 Dalek armies, fully painted and ready to exterminate. Renegades on the left, Imperials on the right, Supreme Dalek in the middle. Seems they've already had a slight disagreement. Fat Slav shared their first tanks for bolt action, this Sherman, and a very well camouflaged Tiger. This Sherman has some logs made from cocktail sticks, and has some very nice heavy weathering. Good work. Flying Scanion shared some Shield Wolf miniatures Shield Maiden infantry, and says it's quite a nice kit, assuming you want unrealistic quasi-chainmail bikini-clad Shield Maidens. These don't seem to be very scantily clad, which is a bit unusual for female figures. The models do look rather good though, and are very nicely painted. Weasel shared this Spitfire Mark 9 twin-seater that he's been working on. It's converted from an Airfix Mark 1A. Very interesting. Definitely keep us updated. And that's it for now. Excellent models, everybody. Thank you very much for sharing. And thanks to everyone who asked a question too. If you've got a question you would like an answer to on the next Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, be sure to post it in the comment section below or on Discord, whichever you prefer. And if you haven't already, why not sub here on YouTube, follow me on social media, or watch me stream on Twitch. And if you really like what I do, please consider helping to support the channel over on Patreon, or perhaps by purchasing a mug or a shirt from my merch store. You could even buy a game from Humble Bundle using my referral link. Links to all of those things are in the description below. And as always, I shall return soon. So until then, be excellent to each other and thanks for watching. Farewell.